If you've seen some of my past videos on YouTube, then it should be pretty clear that I'm a fan of Danganronpa, and furthermore, that I am a fan of fangans. At the time of writing this script and preparing for this video, 11 of my total 24 videos are in fact edited down VODs of me playing said fangans. Oh, right. Not everyone may know what the term fangan means. A Danganronpa, better known as a fangan, is a fan-made version of the Danganronpa formula. There are an insane amount of fangans out there, on loads of different platforms too, including, but not limited to, Instagram, YouTube, and even as a playable game. I have consumed a lot of fangan media in my lifetime, so I thought it would be fun for me to talk about my current top 10 fangans out there. In order to make things fair, I will not be including any fangans that have officially been either cancelled or put on an indefinite hiatus by their creator/team. I wanted to make sure I only added projects that don't have an unfinished or abrupt ending. I also am not going to be showcasing anything in this video that contains spoilers to any entry being discussed, as I think you should all go in blind and enjoy these fangans yourself. Before we start, I just want to say that the placements on the list are just my opinion, and it's totally okay if you don't agree. Let me know if you'd swap any entries around, or even place a different fangan entirely on the list in the comments section below. While you're down there, I'd appreciate a like on the video, as well as hitting that subscription button. It helps the algorithm push my content, and it would mean a lot to me. Without further ado, let's give it everything we got, cause it's...
Punishment time!
No, that's wrong! Because what's actually happening is that it's ranking time. In 10th place, we have an entry from Instagram called Rompa and Friends. Rompa and Friends, created by Empire Spade, follows beloved Disney characters such as Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, and many other familiar faces as they find themselves trapped inside of a castle within Toontown's first ever killing game. This story began on February 29th, 2020, and finally concluded on March 24th, 2021. What I think this fangan excels at is keeping their audience enthralled by dangling tidbits of information in our faces at just the right time. I believe they are also pretty great at balancing their main plot and their subplot. They make the two storylines complement one another nicely and have a nice back and forth. Because the cast of characters are those in many people's memory due to Disney's pure pop culture presence, it's not hard to get attached to each character quickly. Not to mention, the creators somehow simultaneously kept the characters true to who they were at their core, but they also did something unique by keeping a mature tone through the story, which I think adds a nice juxtaposition. I bet you're wondering why this entry is sitting at number 10 if I just keep sounding its praises. Well, the reason this entry isn't any higher is actually due to the status of its sequel, titled Rompa and Friends Rerun. It's extremely rare for a fangan to receive a sequel, so when they do, it's always exciting to see how they're going to continue the story. Well, that's the issue. The story isn't continuing. We haven't received a single update or post from the creator or its page since October 3rd, 2022. Thankfully, Rompa and Friends Rerun has finished its prologue and Chapter 1, but that's unfortunately what we were left on. The only thing keeping this entry on the list is, number one, the fact that the original story is still uploaded and completed, and number two, because it hasn't technically received a cancellation post, so it still fits within the parameters of this ranking, even if it is just because of the state of it being in limbo. If I'm going to be brutally honest, I've kind of lost hope for this fangan due to the fact that we haven't received any single update in almost 3 years. I just don't think we're going to get a conclusion to the sequel, and I find that really unfortunate because the writing was truly impeccable. However, don't let the status of the sequel deter you from enjoying the first entry, as it's still really well made. At number 9, we have Kill Cure Beautiful Vice. I have been following this project since it was announced roughly 7 years ago. Yeah, that's right. We were first introduced to this cast of characters as well as the unique concept of this particular killing game about 7 years ago. I absolutely fell in love with the original voice actor reveal trailer, because of this line delivery alone.
I don't eat them because they're shaped like dinosaurs. I eat them because they're fucking chicken nuggets!
Back in late 2017 and early 2018, the project was originally announced under the title Danganronpa Kill Cure. Unfortunately, in 2020, the original creator of the project, Moboxer, retired from the team for personal reasons. However, on March 22nd, 2025, Team Kill Cure released a playable demo as well as a full prologue playthrough on their YouTube page. I myself have played the demo and am either currently working on the video or already posted the video, depending on when you're coming across this video. What makes this killing game unique is the fact that the mascot character, Kokoro-saru, is actively giving out motives not to kill. That's right, our lovable monkey mascot is trying to keep the cast from killing each other. I can't say the same for his alter ego, Bizaru-saru, who has actually stripped our 16 students of their ultimate titles. Actually, scratch that. I meant to say 15 students, considering a cast member alongside our students is actually not a student at all, but in fact is a teacher. All of these uniquely different twists prove to me that in just the short amount of time that we got in the prologue, that this fangan has truly flipped the Danganronpa formula on its head. And that just makes me excited to see how their first chapter plays out. Which brings me to why it's placed at number 9. Since Kill Cure only has the prologue out right now, there's not a lot of content to really analyze or judge as of right now. So, although I thoroughly enjoyed myself while playing the prologue, I can't justifiably put it any higher since every other entry on the list has at least Chapter 1 Daily Life fully completed. At number 8, we have a unique entry as we actually have 2 games sharing one spot. And that's because, like our number 10 entry, Rompa and Friends, this entry is also a sequel pairing. These games are some of the original fangans that took the fangan and Danganronpa communities alike by storm. I'm talking about Danganronpa Another and Super Danganronpa Another 2. The first playable game was announced on January 6th, 2013, and was completed June 13th, 2015, which just so happens to be the same day as the release of its sequel, Super Danganronpa Another 2. This entry was completed and created by Korean game developer Lineage. I deeply apologize if that is not the correct way to pronounce it. I tried looking up pronunciations for every single person, and if I get a pronunciation wrong, I'm so sorry. With this being the only entry on the list that was initially created before the original Danganronpa trilogy was even finished, for reference, V3 was released in 2017, that makes this entry incredibly special as Danganronpa Another as well as Super Danganronpa Another 2 helped create the fangan craze to begin with. It would be highly irresponsible for me to even think about making this kind of list or video and not mention the godfather of the fangan community. Unlike our previous 2 entries, this game is actually set in the same universe as the Danganronpa series, but follows the 79th class of Hope's Peak Academy, who are subjected to a killing game put on by our lovable teddy bear mascot, Monokuma. The sequel, Super Danganronpa Another 2, is set on a tropical island where another class of Hope's Peak Academy students are kidnapped into and brought to a set of isolated islands where they are forced to take place in a killing game by the mysterious organization known as Void, which is being run by the game's mastermind. What keeps this entry on the list is the fact that its first game, Danganronpa Another, is fully completed and translated all the way from the prologue to its final chapter. Meanwhile, its sequel, Super Danganronpa Another 2, has the first 2 chapters completed and translated. The reason why these entries are as low as number 8 is simply due to the fact that, number 1, the game is fairly outdated in terms of sprite work and gameplay mechanics. Number 2, you can only play the full games partially in English, which is my primary language. And number 3, these games use the Danganronpa formula a little too closely for my personal liking, which I think has a bit to do with the fact that the games are set in the official universe. Regardless, I love both these entries. It's thanks to Lineage and all the wonderful people who helped work on these projects that we're even able to talk about fangans at this capacity at all. Bringing us to number 7, we have another Instagram entry that has also posted their story as videos on YouTube by the name of Penguin Rompa. Yes, you heard me right. Penguin Rampa, as in Club Penguin. Now, a little personal tidbit about me. I used to play Club Penguin religiously, and more specifically, I used to play the Club Penguin Elite Penguin Force for the DS all the time. Granted, it was because I didn't have many other games at the time, but that didn't deter me from having fun because of how much I enjoyed mystery games and stories. This fangan's first post was made on December 1st, 2019, and introduced us to Agent, who is among the top members of the Penguin Secret Agency in the Elite Penguin Force. Agent, alongside 14 other penguins, both citizens and fellow agents alike, are trapped on Club Penguin Island by a strange-looking version of Herbert P. Bear, a notorious villain in Club Penguin. What I like about Penguin Rampa is the fact that there truly is so much lore regarding Club Penguin placed throughout the story. However, I feel as though you don't really need to be a die-hard Club Penguin fan in order to enjoy the story. All of the characters are written in a very solid manner, the interactions can be heartfelt and gut-wrenching, it makes for an enjoyable experience. This specific fangan has 5 fully completed chapters for you to enjoy, with the 6th one currently in development. Unfortunately, as of August 17, 2023, Tofu Demaru, the creator of Penguin Rampa, made an update post regarding the status of Penguin Rampa. Tofu stated that Penguin Rampa is being put on hiatus, and before you guys storm to the comments and say, "But Arabella, I thought you said no entry on the list will be cancelled or on hiatus," stop that. Stop typing. I still see you typing. You done? Thank you. As I was saying, Tofu stated that Penguin Rampa is on hiatus, but Tofu also stated that although they can't promise anything, they do promise that the story will be finished. Don't believe me? Listen to Tofu themselves.
Hey guys, this is Tofu, you know, the one who made The Thing. It's been a few months since I've given an update on Penguin Rampa, and I've tried to say something multiple times and kept putting it off, but I think enough is enough, and you guys deserve an explanation about why I've kind of been radio silent about Penguin Rampa. So the short answer, very obviously, is that Penguin Rampa is on hiatus right now. I don't know when it'll be back, and I don't even want to promise anything, but it'll be a while. As for why I'm on hiatus, the truth is, my relationship with Penguin Rampa has not been the best since around early 2022, toward the end of Chapter 5. I do want to clarify that the positive impacts Penguin Rampa has had on my life outweigh all of the negatives like 10 to 1, but the fact that those negative impacts even exist at all is something I've been denying for a long time. For almost 4 years now, I have been prioritizing taking care of Penguin Rampa and taking care of the community instead of taking care of myself. I never knew how to express my gratitude towards the people that support me, so I just thought the best thing I could do was to push myself to put out bigger and better content for everyone to enjoy. And it's taken me a while to realize that I don't owe people anything, because at the end of the day, I'm just a random fan that's making something that I want to make. I think if I keep pushing myself the way I have been, the negatives will start to outweigh the positives, and I don't want that to happen, because I do love the series and I don't want to hate it. I obviously still love Penguin Rampa, and I still love what I'm making for Chapter 6. I would sure hope so. I spent like half a year on the outline, but I had a sad realization that actually editing and posting Chapter 6 was by far the least fun I had ever had with Penguin Rampa. I think that Penguin Rampa deserves to be finished by a Tofu who is happier to work on it, and right now, that Tofu is not me. So I just kind of want to take a step back and distance myself from Penguin Rampa for a bit, so that when I have taken care of myself some more, I can take care of it again, and I can welcome it back fully into my life with open arms. So yeah, Penguin Rampa's on hiatus. I can't make any promises as to when it'll return. Literally the only thing I can promise at this point is that I will finish it eventually. I would hate myself forever if I left it unfinished after making it this far, so no matter how long it takes, no matter how long it seems like I've given up, I have not. Another thing I just want to mention briefly at the end is that the Instarampa community in general is very different nowadays. We as creators don't have as much time to make stuff, and you guys don't have as much time to read and engage with stuff. You know, it's not 2020 anymore, and the hype surrounding these Rampas has died down significantly since then. And that's no one's fault, that's just kinda how fandoms go. But unfortunately, it's not very helpful in the motivation department either. So I just hope people understand that when they see creators go on hiatus like this. To end things things on a better note, if you have an Instarampa or any fangan that you want to promote in the comments, please do so. Whether it's your own or just one that you really like, drop it below, because I still want this community to grow and prosper as much as it can. Genuinely, I love this community so much. I know the Danganronpa fandom has a bad rep. Believe me, I've felt the brunt of that, but the Instarampa community was the first fandom that I truly felt a part of, and I've met unfathomable love and support from it, and have met genuinely some of the greatest people ever from it, and I'll always be thankful for that. So thank you so much for listening to me and being part of this community. I am sorry that I am once again going on hiatus, but I hope you understand. This isn't at all a goodbye, but I still feel bittersweet for some reason, so as always, waddle on.
See, I wasn't lying. Although Penguin-Rampa is technically on hiatus, we have officially received word from the creator that the fangan is going to be completed. We just don't know when that will be. So, until we get a cancellation post, Penguin-Rampa gets to stay on the list. However, this is the exact reason why Penguin-Rampa is unfortunately in the lower half of the list, but I still made sure to put it on the list because I believe in Tofu and I know they're going to give us a thrilling conclusion when Chapter 6 comes back. Rounding out the lower half of the list is a fangan in the form of a web series made to implement the look of the games. That's right, at number 6, I can only be talking about Danganronpa Despair Time. The first episode of Despair Time was released on February 1st, 2020, with its most recent episode, being the end to Chapter 2, having been released on October 4th, 2024. What Despair Time does differently is they give us a protagonist, Teruko, that isn't a carbon copy of Makoto or Hajime. Teruko isn't optimistically full of hope or isn't trying to be friends with everyone or get everyone to work together. Teruko is a loner who doesn't trust anyone. She's pessimistic, negative, and overall extremely short and blunt with the entire cast. She goes against the grain of what we've come to expect from a Danganronpa or fangan protagonist. This fresh take of the protagonist role gives the audience a chance to see unique perspectives and character interactions that you can only see with a protagonist such as Teruko. The series not only has a bunch of insanely gut-punch moments emotionally, but they also find a way to add in quirky comedic moments that really lighten the load in terms of burdening feelings that Danganronpa and fangans alike are well known for. In just these 2 chapters alone, we as an audience are hit with insane twists and turns that I myself did not see coming, which I can honestly really appreciate. Like a few other entries, there seems to be an overarching subplot that seems to be directly connected to the main plot with the addition of the character Mai Akasaki, an unknown red-headed figure that continuously appears in multiple posts and videos in the series. The mystery surrounding Mai truly has me racking my brain on what kind of role she plays in the main plot. Is she dead? Is she alive? Is she the mastermind? Who knows? What we do know is the fact that the most recent post I could find indicating the status of Despair Time was on their official Twitter page. Yes, I still call it Twitter. I refuse to call it X. I will never deadname a person, but I will sure as shit deadname an app. Anyway, on June 1st, 2025, the creator posted an update claiming that Chapter 3 work has begun and is currently underway. Progress will be regularly updated on a progress bar on the About page on their official Tumblr account. In the meantime, I highly recommend checking out the first and second chapters of Despair Time, as I believe you won't be disappointed. Starting off the top half of the list is a fangan that has recently gone under some restructuring, rebranding, and has essentially been started over from the beginning with new and improved designs and a playable game up until the first chapter's body discovery announcement. At number 5, I am talking about Danganronpa Antebellum Lockdown. However, before that, it was known as just Danganronpa Antebellum. The original iteration of the story had a prologue and 2 fully released chapters, with the last release being the daily life portion of the 3rd chapter, which premiered on October 28th, 2022. However, the creator of the fangan, Rippleye, released the prologue of the reboot/remake on February 15th, 2025. As someone who watched the initial story's videos, I can safely say that this truly is completely rebooted and remade, as the victim of the first murder in Antebellum Lockdown was not the same one in the initial release. Also, I'm going to be completely honest about the fact that I was definitely sensing some gay/queer tensions between our main character and protagonist, Shinku, and one of the first characters you meet as Shinku, named Dracul. I will 100% allow my bias to show in this moment because any opportunity to gush about representation as a gay/queer person myself makes me extremely happy. The concept that everyone trapped in the killing game being there as some form of punishment is a really fun idea. The potential that every character in the cast could be a sick criminal or may simply have just gotten mixed in with the wrong crowd really adds to the suspense of who is going to die and when. There's an air surrounding the cast that feels really ominous in the way that you can definitely tell that someone here isn't as innocent as they may seem. The team behind Antebellum Lockdown also have been doing live voting sessions for us to have a voice in who we want to learn more about. Following those results, we sometimes come across sensitive information that we have to decide is something either redeemable or beyond help. I can't say for certain, but I'm definitely getting the sense that these live voting sessions may be having an impact on the killing game itself. The dark and gritty tone to the story alongside the warden-like character Amelia gives the Fangan a real Stanford prison experiment feel. We even start the prologue out doing an electroshock test on a fellow cast member, which I think adds to the twisted possibilities on how the game's mascot, Mononeko, is going to mess with the students. Overall, this game's rebrand honestly helped bump it up as high as it got on this list. I had a lot of fun playing this, and will eventually get to my posting my gameplay of it. Stay tuned. Next up, sitting pretty at number 4 is a Fangan that I did not know I needed in my life until I saw it. I can only be talking about cartoons and Danganronpa. This Fangan was created by that cheesy bastard here on YouTube. The first episode of the prologue was released on August 26th, 2020, with the most recent post being May 22nd, 2025. So, safe to say we are for sure getting the ending to the first chapter's trial at some point. That brings me to how much content is released. Cartoons in Danganronpa has completely finished its prologue, as well as the Chapter 1 daily life, with about 50 to 75% of Chapter 1's deadly life, including the trial, being done. This is where we currently sit. Now, you may be wondering how a Fangan with not even its first chapter being completed somehow beat out all the other entries to reach the number 4 spot. So, allow me to explain. I love the characters. Pretty simple answer, I know, but that's because that cheesy bastard has combined a bunch of cartoon characters from a bunch of people's, mine included, childhood. With characters such as Dipper and Mabel Pine from Gravity Falls, to XJ9, or as her friends call her, Jenny from My Life as a Teenage Robot, to Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls, even Cartman from South Park. When you take a look at this cast of characters, you would initially think that they wouldn't be able to work together, yet somehow the entire cast is really great at bouncing off one another. The writing so far has been impeccable because every character, much like Rampa and Friends, was still true to their core. Writing pre-established characters can be extremely difficult because you have to make sure they stay true to who they are and would only act as they normally would. That cheesy bastard somehow finds the perfect instance of lightning in a bottle where I genuinely cannot find a single flaw in that matter. If you are an enjoyer and watcher of many cartoons, then you will also be able to spot and point out Easter eggs that have been scattered around the episodes, whether from the background or as the collectible items Monokuma tasks protagonist Dipper Pine to collect. If I'm being completely candid, I think the reason this Fangan made it so high up on the list is simply due to the pure enjoyment factor when watching. I find myself completely and utterly enthralled by how every voice actor has been able to pull off beloved character voices. Characters such as Gaz Membrane from Invader Zim and Ed from Ed, Edd and Eddy sound so close to the original that I truly cannot tell the difference sometimes. Don't believe me? Here, listen for yourself.
My name is Gaz. You better not have left a scratch on my game sleeve when you bumped into me.
I am Ed, and I am, good at lifting things that Eddie can't lift.
In conclusion, oh my god, they made a fantastic Fangan. That cheesy bastard. You see what I did there? No, oh, fuck it, let's move on. Taking home the bronze medal in our unofficial ranking is the final entry on the list from Instagram, by the name of Danganronpa Deception Examination. Created by only one individual, Pocky, who reigns as both the artist and the writer of the entire comic. The fact that this is a one-person job absolutely floors me, as the story has been nothing short of outstanding. The story began with its first post all the way back on September 22nd, 2021, with posts as recent as today, as in the day I'm writing this script. Currently, Deception Examination has a completed prologue, as well as 4 completed chapters, with Chapter 5 being worked on and posted as I speak. The story follows Faith Sinclair, the ultimate journalist, alongside 15 other students trapped by the pesky dragon mascot, Mono Ryu. What puts Deception Examination this high up on the list is its character relationships. No matter where you look in the cast, you can clearly tell that all of the characters were created in mind to either work well with one another or to cause friction amongst the group. Those are both very important qualities to have when writing and creating a fangan, in my opinion. This cast of characters is somehow extremely grounded in realistic portrayals, while simultaneously being some of the wackiest and zaniest characters you'll have ever seen. And that's saying something, since the last entry was literally an amalgamation of various cartoon properties. The deaths are brutal, the motives are gut-wrenching, and you honestly feel for every character that falls victim, whether they were the actual victim of the case or the culprit who fell victim to the game itself. I think another strong suit of Deception Examination is the addition of the non-canon sister series, Danganronpa Deception Examination Afterlife. This is a non-canon storyline that follows the spirits and/or ghosts of the students who have died in the Killing Game. What I like about Afterlife is that you feel as though all the characters are valued, no matter how early or late they died. Although what is talked about in the series of Afterlife is not canon, I still find the interactions and conversations to be intriguing and eye-opening. There were characters I initially could not stand, who I ended up loving because I took the time to read Afterlife. Hi, this is editor Arabella here. Fun fact, I also found out that there is another piece of side content called the ARG, A-R-G, on the official Deception Examination Discord server. So, yay, more side content. I think even though it's not canon, I still think that the characters act the way that they would in the quote-unquote canon series. It's a fun and unique way to give the audience the closure they may have been looking for with their favorite character who unfortunately perished. There's tiny bits of information sprinkled within each chapter, giving more and more context to the overall narrative, which I can already tell is going to have an explosive finale. The protagonist is flawed but kind. The antagonist stirs the pot but is insanely complex and nuanced. Everything about this fangan is amazing. Also, fun fact, this fangan is one of the only ones to actually get me to shed a tear. For those of you who have read Chapter 4, if you know, you know. Pocky, if you're watching this, you have created something so amazing. Thanks for a great story. I just know you're gonna knock it out of the park with this ending. The recipient of the silver medal, and placing at the number 2 spot, we have one of the newest fangans on this list that has taken the fangan community by storm by giving a unique perspective and a different way of telling the story. We have the YouTube web series, Tetro Danganronpa Pink. The series was created by Vaughn Babbitt, who also claims the titles of writer, voice director, artist, as well as main audio and video editor. The first episode of Tetra's prologue was released July 26, 2024, and finally concluded with its final episode of Session 1 on May 2nd, 2025. We did, however, also receive an extra mini-episode after that on June 4th, 2025. Now, you may have noticed that I said Session 1. You may also be wondering why that is. Well, I felt the need to elaborate that Tetro Pink was Session 1 because, thankfully, it has already been announced that we will be receiving a sequel titled Tetro Danganronpa Blue, which in universe is being called Session 2. Tetro does, in a way, follow the Danganronpa formula, but what they do differently is they don't have one person that we follow as a traditional protagonist. Instead, the chapters are told through fly on the wall style moments where we get to watch different characters interact with one another. That is what is so unique about Tetro and why it has been placed this high up on the list. Tetro does something I have been asking from fangams for a while. I have just wanted to see multiple people's reactions and perspectives instead of just the one person. Tetro finally delivered on that desire, and I have to say they did an incredible job doing so. It is so intriguing to watch a motive be given to the cast and see how each character is reacting to the information being presented. Another unique storytelling choice that Tetro makes is that the entire web series is basically an audiobook. There's no background art except for the sprites, there's no CGs, there's no animated executions. Every bit of storytelling is done via voice acting. I have to give props where they are due, and I have to say the voice cast for this series did a wonderful job. Because this kind of structure relies so heavily on the abilities of its voice cast, I would say that the voice actors truly do carry the narrative for me. I could feel their anguish, their joy. The talents in this project truly made this project what it was. Something else I couldn't get enough of was the scientist subplot that was happening simultaneously during the main plot. I think it was such a new yet simple addition to the traditional formula that it really added a sadistic nature to this particular killing game. You may be wondering why I would talk about the scientist team putting on the killing game experiment, but the thing is, that concept is shown to us in the very beginning. It's never been kept a secret from the audience, which I kind of love. Honestly, I am so excited to see what the Tetro team has in store for us in the sequel series that they are currently working on. In the meantime, why don't you guys go check out the entire completed first session while we wait. Now, before we get to the number 1 spot, I want to talk about some honorable mentions. I knew 10 spots was never going to be enough since there were so many great fangams to choose from, so I've got a handful to talk about here. Just want to mention that these are in no particular order and that these honorable mentions I'm about to discuss got beaten out by very small margins, most of which have to do with there not really being enough released content to justify them getting a slot on the list. Starting off, we have Ultra Danganronpa Heaven of Despair. This is a series made to look like the anime version of Danganronpa while simultaneously being a visual novel-esque adaptation. What stood out to me is the fact that this project has such a clean and crisp animation. However, although it looks amazing, I can't help but point out that we haven't received a single update post or video on YouTube since June 7th, 2023, which was unfortunately a little over 2 years ago. With there not even being a prologue or trailer, I simply could not justify it receiving a spot on the list. However, I still thought it looked cool and wanted to at least mention it. Next, we have Danganronpa Heartless Deceit. The first episode of the prologue was released May 13th, 2023, and the final episode of the prologue was released June 3rd, 2023. Unfortunately, that's all the episodes we have so far, plus we haven't received an update in roughly a year, so that's why it didn't make the list. We follow protagonist Akira Hayasaka, who finds herself kidnapped amongst 15 other individuals who were meant to attend the opening ceremony of the EOS Institute to begin the journey of honing their talents. What Heartless Deceit does best is seemingly have an extremely intertwined narrative that follows not only our main cast of 16 Killing Game attendees, not only those outside the Killing Game who are trying to stop it, but also a murder of a young woman who was killed 6 years ago. Not to mention, they also have released an interlude as well as a mini episode that seems to be interconnected somehow as well. Call me Billy Mays, cause that's not all. Our protagonist, Akira, has not been bestowed just one talent, but 2. Want to find out what it is? Go watch the prologue and find out for yourself. Up next, we have Monster Rampa. Honestly, I'm just a huge fan and enjoyer of Monster High content in general, so a crossover was bound to be mentioned if it existed. And it does. The playable demo was created by Barbie Rampa and features Frankie Stein as our playable protagonist with 15 of her best school friends, unfortunately trapped by the sinister mascot, Skullette, inside of Monster High. The demo was incredibly fun, but due to the fact that the only thing out is the demo with about an hour to an hour and a half worth of content, I just couldn't find a reasonable way to put it on the list. However, I love the game and even played it. So if you're interested, feel free to watch my playthrough of Monster Rampa after this video. Next up, we have Kumitantai, Old School Slaughter. Janus Institute's class of 89 are trapped in a killing game. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, this is where it gets interesting. While every other fangan I've mentioned in this video uses the class trial system to solve the murders and mysteries, what this fangan does differently is give the audience an entirely new way to play. Instead, we have to play intense card minigames in order to debate amongst the cast, and the evidence we collect can actually become the cards themselves. With such a unique premise, I had to mention it. Like the previous entries, there's just not enough content to get it on the list. The demo is free to play though, right now, on Steam. The final honorable mention we have today is a fangan by the name of the Uzuchigoku Massacre. There is currently a demo available that is roughly 47 minutes long, which, once again, the amount of release content kept it off the list, but I still wanted to talk about it. The vibe of this game is sinister, and I would go as far as to say almost downright evil. Although it plays like Danganronpa, there's something much darker within its presence. This game has an overwhelming horror aesthetic to it that leads me to think this game is going to be much darker, bloodier, and overall more brutal. Not to mention the cast of characters have some great designs in my opinion. I would also say that the voice actor reveal trailer showcased the insane talents being brought onto the project. Even with such a short showcase, I believe this project has some of the most potential to do something breathtaking. Now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, the fangan that is receiving the grand prize, the fangan that has reached the #1 spot on this list, is the one, the only, it's Project Eden's Garden. I mean, yeah, it was always going to be Project Eden's Garden. Project Eden's Garden is a fangan currently in production and has a playable demo out right now for you to play up to the end of Chapter 1. This fangan released its prologue on December 16th, 2022, and its Chapter 1 on December 20th, 2024. This fangan is created by a team of developers founded by Sean Lusk and directed by Tako Zero Mari and Juve. What truly sets apart Project Eden's Garden from the rest of the competition is, #1, a cast of extremely fun yet engaging characters who all seem not only entertaining but also very grounded and realistic. #2, smooth gameplay with an amazing user interface that is visually striking. #3, one hell of an original soundtrack given to us by Hayden Graves. #4, a cast of voice actors who give it their all with their breathtaking performances. #5, a new unique twist on the Danganronpa formula with how they've crafted the narrative. And #6, speaking of twists, there were moments within both the prologue and Chapter 1 that pulled the rug out from beneath me so fiercely. So, basically, every category it excels in. If I were a teacher, this is what an A+ would look like to me in terms of fangans. Project Eden's Garden is genuinely one of the most polished fangans I have ever seen in my life. And I'm not just saying that to try and glaze it. Making a playable game is quite the feat. Now, that's not to say that other formats, such as a web series or Instagram comic, also don't come with their own sets of obstacles and challenges. I'm just saying that making a game is hard. Making a well-made game is even harder. Making a well-made game that looks stunning, that is such a difficult thing to do that it requires a lot of time and talent. So the fact that this fangan has managed to look like a game made by a AAA company, that just really says a lot to how talented, passionate, and hardworking the Project Eden's Garden team is. I truly have never had so much fun playing or experiencing a fangan before in my life. So much so that I have posted my entire playthrough of Project Eden's Garden, the prologue and Chapter 1, as that's all that's released so far. Yeah, that was a shameless self-promotion of my own channel in my own video. Sue me. Anyways, Project Eden's Garden does the unthinkable in how it shakes up the Danganronpa formula. Straight from the get-go, we are met with subversions that truly have you thinking that just because you know Danganronpa does not mean you know Project Eden's Garden. And that is really exciting. It honestly reminds me of when I played Danganronpa for the first time back in 2014. Also, I couldn't talk about Project Eden's Garden and not mention my favorite character, Kai Montiago, voiced by the extremely talented Dakota Farnsworth. He's just so brat-coded in the best way possible.
My track, keep bumping that till the windows crack. I'll be bumping that. No, I'll never go home, don't sleep, don't eat. Just do it on repeat, keep. I'm in the club, yeah, I'm 365 party girl. Should we do a little pee? Should we have a little?
Well, that concludes my list. If you made it all the way to the end, I just want to give a huge thank you for supporting my channel. If you liked this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get notifications for when I post new videos. This video took a long time to make, from the script writing, to recording my voice, to editing the B-roll footage. This was one of the biggest feats I've ever challenged myself with in terms of content creation. But I'm very proud of myself for completing it. Whether you agree or disagree, sound off in the comments and let me know. Also, before we sign off, I just want to give a huge shout out to every single member who worked on a fangan that was mentioned today. You guys have truly created some amazing content, and I have had so much fun consuming this media. Thank you all so much for your tireless and passionate efforts in your endeavors. I wish all of you nothing but the best. I love you all. Hope to see you all next time. Bye, everyone.